You know that scripture that talks about peace that passes understanding? It's one thing to believe in that, it's another thing to know how to access it. In this episode of Wisdom from the Well, Lisa Bauer, Lois Zehr, and myself talk about how to access that peace and the role of gratitude in being able to access that peace, especially in times of great challenge. We also discuss choice and what our choices, difference our choices make. And take the question that's familiar, what would Jesus do, and kind of flip that on its head and give it a little new spin that can be even more effective to help us to access that peace that passes understanding in the times of great trial. Join us. Hi, I'm Tracy Astle, an eating psychology coach, and I'm welcoming you to our first episode of Wisdom from the Well, faith-filled conversations to inspire and connect. I'd like to introduce my partners in crime, my cohorts, my sisters in faith, Lois Zehr and Lisa Bauer. And this was born of just conversations that we have had together and decided to start recording them because we were very enriched and hope that it's enriching to you too. For our first episode, we were thinking about the challenge of what it looks like to really walk with Christ every day, to invite him into our life. And the three of us are in a position where we've got aging parents and have dealing with the challenges of that. So we just want to invite you to consider with us what it looks like to walk with God every day. Um, and before we started recording, Lois said something that I just want to open with, and it's just the way that you said this, Lois. I wanted everybody to hear this. Um, we're mostly, probably all of us, familiar with asking, what would Jesus do? But Lois has a little different take on that. Lois, you want to tell them what we were talking about just a little bit ago?
Well, I was just saying that it was really revolutionary for me when I shifted from thinking in a moment, what would Jesus do, to what is Jesus actually doing in this moment? Because if we're truly on board with what Jesus says, he's in us and we're in him. So he actually wants to live in this moment. I
Mhm.
don't know if I said it the same way,
Yeah,
Tracy, but
yes, I love that. It's just so powerful to me. And all three of us are in a place where we're dealing with aging parents, and I think that's something that's really common to people of our age and even a little bit younger. Um, so, Lisa, for you, what are some of the challenges that you find in trying to balance that?
Yes. Well, first of all, I feel so grateful that I have all around those faith-based parents. So my husband's parents, my mom, my dad passed away a long time ago, but even extended family. So, what a blessing that they're all behind us in prayer and we can enter into that with them. But it really has been kind of balancing and not feeling guilty for not being able to follow through in my business like I feel like I want to.
Mm,
So stepping back with that and going, okay, God, this is the season you have me at right now. And how grateful I am to be able to have that season and to be able to be alongside my mom as she's going through her journey. Um, and, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my algorithms on LinkedIn because I haven't posted this week. And then I took a step back and I said, you know what? This time with my mom right now, it's priceless and precious.
mhm,
And that's what I'm going to step into.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a um, it's a balancing act all throughout our lives, I think, no matter what stage we're in, to know years ago, hearing this song called Which Part Is Mine?
Mm.
And it's just all about, the song from the perspective of the person who's just saying, okay, God, I'm willing to do whatever, but I'm trying to do all this stuff. And which part is mine and which part is yours?
Mm.
And I think that's a question that throughout our lives we struggle with in so many different ways, in so many different situations. Um, And I think, Lois, what you said earlier really can have an impact on that. Instead of looking at which part is mine and which part is yours, well, I think that's kind of a duality that doesn't need to be there. It's like just um the hymn, lead kindly light. Take thou my feet. I do not ask to see the distant scene. One step enough for me. Just show me where to put my foot and I'll put it there. And so there's me doing that. So I guess that would be, if you're going to look at it dually, that would be my part. But um the his part is, and our part is trusting that he's going to do that. He's going to show us where to put our foot. He may not show us where the destination is, but he'll show us where to put our foot. And I think that what you said earlier about not what would Jesus do, but what is Jesus doing in this moment, Lois, I think that's such a powerful thing because it gives purpose to every challenge that we're facing.
Yeah, yeah. I just think about how Jesus lived. Scripture says that he didn't do anything that he didn't see his father doing, right? Jesus came and he modeled that communion and that oneness style of living that really he was the precursor for all of us. And that's that's God's desire for all of us, is that we would enter into that daily, moment by moment living in that abiding space with God. And when we learn to do that, which comes not automatically but by practice and by trial and error, it's transformational for us and for those that we are engaging and serving and living in. And I was just this I guess a couple of months ago, I was feeling pressured because, as you refer to, we're that sandwich generation,
Mhm.
right? We have adult children who, we're living in an era where it's harder for adult children to launch themselves and sustain themselves. And we're living in a generation where we have aging parents, and in a way that we haven't, I don't think previous generations experienced before, with healthcare and situations. And I was thinking, I'm feeling pressured, Lord. I'm feeling pressured from so many things on in family, but like, what about business? What about what I feel like you put on my heart that you're calling me to do? And it was interesting. Over a period of weeks, the Lord led me to those verses in, I think it's in Romans. I can't remember right now. I'll have to find it for you. But it's, for as many as are led by the Spirit of God, these are sons of God. I thought, oh, that's a good verse, Lord. But I started to reflect on that and thinking, okay, am I being led by pressure,
Mm.
or am I being led by the Spirit of God?
Mm.
And I recognize that, I think one of you, we were talking earlier, we talked about these are all opportunities. These are opportunities for us to learn to be led by the Spirit of God, for us to grow up and be the mature sons and daughters of God.
Mhm.
What do you guys think?
Mhm. Yeah, and the favorite scripture for many, many of us, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, to trust in the Lord with all our heart and lean not to our own understanding, but in all our ways to acknowledge him, and he shall direct our paths. And having that kind of spirit-led um, perspective and desire, it doesn't mean everything's going to go perfect all the time because, like you said, trial and error, trial and error, and that's okay. We were not intended to come down here and do this all right, you know, um, but to learn and to grow. And
And the one thing I
oh, go ahead, Lisa.
no, the one thing I wanted to lend into that with, being able to just look at what's before us at the moment, because so many times we want to see that big picture. We want all the answers, but God's like, no, I'm directing that one step at a time. But isn't that where we see the miracles, the small things, the magic, those moments that we might miss out on
Hmm.
if He showed us the entire picture?
Yeah, I recently, that's recently did an article about mile markers in life, and I think that's one of the big things. Like we think we want to know, okay, exactly where are we going? But if we know that and we know the time frame and we it's all laid out before us, that just takes away so many opportunities because if we know that, most of us, myself included, are going to be, instead of being focused along the journey of what's happening while I'm getting there or what's happening to me, how I'm changing while I'm getting there, I'm just going to go, that's where I'm going. I'm going to get so focused on the destination that I miss so much along the way. And that's not the thing. That's not the thing.
Yeah, and I think that not knowing really invites us into a place of trust, right? Lisa, you said it would be nice to know the next step, but
Yeah.
the reality is God is inviting us into trust,
Yeah.
Hmm.
into that relationship of trust. And that doesn't come by knowing with our head. Trust is a factor of our hearts being connected to God's heart and knowing his nature and character. And that, I hate to say it, it only comes through experience. I mean, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but for me, it only comes with like practicing.
Me too. Me too.
True.
And
Haven't found the fast track on that one yet.
Yeah, some of the biggest blessings I've experienced have been in those hard, hard, hard times. I've always said I wouldn't want to go back and relive them. I don't, some of them I think I don't know if I could live through them again. And yet
Yeah.
that's where my heart was closest to God. That's where I've been the most connected. And I've learned to trust him
Mhm.
the greatest or through those moments.
Mhm.
Lord, please don't take me back to those moments. But thank you for those experiences.
Yeah. I remember
Can I?
one. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was. Go ahead, and I'll bring it up later. Go ahead.
Okay. It just makes me think of a very dear friend of mine that I had who she's a woman who I told her don't ever write a book about your life because nobody will believe that all of this was in one life. Um, Health issues and just all kinds of things. And I learned from her. I had been at a point where it's like I had learned to be like grateful after the trial was over. It's like, okay, the hard part's done now. What did I learn? Oh, okay, I'm grateful for that. Don't want to go back, but I'm grateful. But she taught me how to be grateful during.
Mm.
And yeah, and that was a big step. And I just thought it was kind of funny because I'm like, how do you do this? She goes, I just pray gratitude. I just told, I'm grateful that this is happening. And I just looked at her and she goes, oh, I'm lying when I say it. But I know that ultimately I am grateful because I'm going through this for a reason and I know that he knows why. And when I understand what he understands, then I'm going to be grateful. So might as well just be grateful now. So I just pray grateful prayers until I mean them.
Oh, wow.
What an idea. What
Yeah.
an idea.
Wow. That's powerful.
Uh,
That's interesting because I remember thinking, how do you be grateful in tough stuff, right? I just feel the last 10 years of my life probably have brought the most challenges for me in my whole entire life.
mhm,
And so it feels like the heat has been turned up and lots of opportunities to grow and learn. And what I was going to bring up earlier was, Lisa, you have chosen to trust through this. You have chosen to learn. I just wanted to highlight
Mm.
that that's a choice that we make. That's an intentional choice that we make.
mhm,
It's not something that's automatic. And you will not automatically get closer to God or grow through these relationships. You can, if you're not intentional and you're not careful, slip away, become hard hearted, become bitter, become angry, become all of those things. And so it's a choice that we make
Mm.
to choose to say, I don't understand this, like the verse you said, but I'm going to trust you with all your heart, my heart. I'm going to lean not to my own understanding. God, I'm going to acknowledge you in this situation, and you're going to work it out, and I'm going to be able to know what my next step is going to
Mm.
be.
Thank you for
mhm.
that. That's true.
That reminds me of this oft repeated invitation, commandment, depending on how you read it. seek and ye shall find. And for all of most of my life, I thought, okay, that means, it's couched with ask and ye shall receive, seek and you shall knock and it shall be opened. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is like when we're pursuing, when we want to know, basically, when we want to know God's will, when we want to know, things of eternities, things like that, that applied to that. And that's true. But then just probably 3 years ago or so, I was just driving along in my car and the song came on and it took that phrase and it just flipped a little bit. It said, as you seek, so shall you find. And I
Mm,
went, oh my gosh, yes. And we know that whatever perspective we have, what we're looking for, we're going to find that. If we go
Yeah.
through these challenging things and we're looking through it through the lens of, see, basically, God just hates me. He doesn't
mm,
care about me. He doesn't care how hard this is. Then we're going to find things to support that.
right.
When we look at it through the lens of, okay, all things work together for my good, then
Hmm.
we're going to look for things. And it's in those really challenging situations, it's harder to find, but we'll be looking for those things that go, how is this working for my good? How, and if we look back to times that have taught us to trust him, like you said, Lois, trial and error, trial and error. When we look back to those times when we've learned how to trust him, then when we're in the midst of another really challenging time, we can go, okay, I remember feeling like this before. And that time it worked out like this. And that time it worked out like this. And that time it worked out like this. And so we can then rest in, I have no idea what this working out is going to look like, but I know that I'm going to be okay. And even better than okay. I know that I can trust him in this. And that all comes from choice. What are we looking for? What are we seeking? Are we seeking to be strengthened? Are we seeking to have our hearts become like his? Are we seeking to become more like Jesus? If that's what we're seeking, then we'll find it. But if it's not what we're seeking, then it's not what we're going to find.
Yeah, right on. Right on. And that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. I think that it's one of those things that we have to decide, I think, in advance. You know how sometimes if we make a decision in advance, then when we get into a situation, we don't have to make a decision and we're not pressured to go. And so it's kind of one of those things that, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, Lord, this is a good day. You have made this day. There is a lot of good that is going to come in this day. And I choose to look for that. I choose to focus on that. And yeah, there's going to be hard stuff, but I know you're with me. And so help me to perceive and see as you see today. I want your eyes today because that then gives me access into so many different things that normally if I was stuck in the negative and worst case scenario thinking and the doom and gloom, which by nature I'm going to say that's me. I have worked diligently and I'm not there yet because I still catch myself in that. But it is a choice. It is such a choice. And the outcomes are so different when we set our intention to see the good, see the beautiful. Like Paul said, right? Like whatever is good,
Yeah.
pure, true, honorable, whatever. Think on these things. It's a
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other thing, I know, sure you ladies probably do the same thing as when we were talking about setting our day with intention. We wake up and we set our day with gratitude, and we set our day. And I'm going to say I'm guilty of not doing this every day, but I really am trying to make it such a strong habit to wake up with that gratitude and say, okay, God, I'm yours. Wherever you want to take me today, may I see your hand in my day. And there are days by the end of the day, I'm like, okay, God, I saw your hand all day long, but I'm exhausted now. May I sleep tonight?
This reminds me, I just recently saw a clip of a man named David Bednar. He was talking to a group of like 18 to 30-year-olds, and he held up his phone. He said, "This phone is an object and is to be acted upon. This phone can't do anything in and of itself." He said, "We are not objects. We have the power to act. We have the power to choose. And yet we often pray like we're objects."
Hmm.
I went, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, how often have I done that?" Like, I mean, it's a good thing to want to be an object of God's attention and to be an object of God, but He
right.
didn't make me to be an object. He didn't make me to say, "Okay, God, let this happen. Help me that." Da, da, da. It's like, no, I am not an object to be acted upon. And I just, oh man, that hit when I heard him say that.
Yes, yes,
Well, and
because,
that's,
oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Lisa.
No, I was going to say,
No,
and
no,
that
you,
kind of makes us a conduit of Him. You know, we're not this stagnated object. He pours through us. We're a conduit of God's grace and love and power and mercy.
Mhm.
yeah. And I was going to say, it really speaks to we were created in God's image and likeness, and He gave us dominion on planet Earth. And so often we get sidetracked whining at God to do things for us when He's saying, just like He said to Moses when they were at the edge of the river, when Pharaoh was behind them, God was like, "Why are you whining at me? Stretch out your hand. Do something, Moses." Right? And I feel like often we forget that God has given us dominion, and He needs us to choose and initiate and speak and
Mhm.
hold expectancy for a good outcome.
Mhm.
And then He can come in and move through us and around us. But until we exercise our authority and our dominion in that situation, I think that, we limit ourselves and we limit God.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
As you're speaking that, I'm thinking, what I'm thinking about is like that little, 4 or 5-year-old that is handing something to you, like, do it. And you're like, you can do it. You hand it back. And so, in so many ways, we are that child going, and God's like,
You can do
you do
this.
it. You can do this. Clap, clap.
Yeah, kind of the opposite end of that is when for the 2-year-old who's going, "Do myself, mommy, do myself."
Yeah. We need to be more of that 2-year-old mindset sometimes.
Well, isn't that just
Yep.
the tension, right, of truth?
Yep.
It's like,
Mm.
the 2-year-old who says, "I do it myself." Well, that's us operating in isolation from God, in our
Mm.
own strength, in as what the Bible talks about is our flesh, right?
Mhm.
And yet then we go swing over here and we're like, "Okay, God, just do it all." And God's like, "Are you kidding me? I want you to grow up. I want you to rule and reign with me. I want you," right? And so it's that learning to not be independent from God, but not be totally codependent on God and expecting Him to do for us what He's saying, "You can do this for yourself." I love that image, Lisa, that you gave. That you're like, "No, you can do it. You can walk. You can tie your shoes." Remember when your kids were learning to tie
Oh,
their shoes? And you just want to go swoop in and help them. And it's like, "No, they can do this. I need to let them do this." And then, like, now all our kids are grown up. Do they struggle with tying their shoes? No, right? Same with us for so many
yeah.
things.
Yes. That it is such a strong picture. And praise God, he made us just that little lower than angels, gave us the total dominion, as you already said. And gosh, do we forget that?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
forget that.
And even knowing that, though, it doesn't make it easy.
No.
Like, I'm such a firm believer that knowing who we are, that we are beloved, in this case, daughters of God, that makes all the difference. But it doesn't make life easy.
Mhm.
It's just, that's not, there was no easy button. It's just when we think about when we're trying to be like Jesus. Mhm. And we're also taught, and it's true, that when we're obedient, we are blessed. But we tend to think of it like this: when we're obedient, then we're blessed. It's like there's no time frame on this. It's like it's true, but we think, okay, well, now I'm obedient and things are hard. So then we get grumpy and grouchy and doubtful and all of that. And it's like I think we'd all agree as Christians that we're trying to be like Christ.
Mhm.
Did he have an easy life? It's like if we're trying to be like him and we think that trying to be like him equals easy, that's something we need to rethink.
Right, right. And
Well,
in,
I think the heart is always trying to expand our capacity so that we
Mhm.
can carry the nature and the character of God. And so when we're in those situations that are expanding our capacity, it doesn't feel good. It feels uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's not that comfy, cozy, let me snuggle up with my blankie and my warm drink and nice music feeling. It's just not. But if we have the awareness of what is happening, oh, I'm being expanded here. Or if I could say, if we have the openness and willingness to perceive that that could be happening,
Mhm.
right? Again, it comes back to our choice. Do I want to be conformed to the image of Jesus? Then this situation that I'm in, it's perfect for that. Let me access that. So I have to remind myself of that. It's not automatic, but yeah, I choose.
Yeah.
like, oh yes, he did die on the cross. Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think with these things like this, it just seems it seems counterintuitive to be able to be going through a very hard, very soul-stretching time and be grateful, to feel joy in that. It's like this doesn't make sense. This is so hard, and but we can have that. You said it's not like a comfy, warm blanket. Well, one of the names of the Holy Ghost is the Comforter, but that doesn't mean it's not the comfortable. It's it's
Mhm.
being comforted in times that are
Yeah.
challenging and comforted in the knowledge that we can gain and the guidance that we can receive. And if we can remember that it's not easy. It doesn't, but we can still have peace. And I love the way it's phrased, where it says, peace that passeth all understanding. Because that peace often it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to be able to be in like Corey and Betsy Ten Boom, to be in a concentration camp and to be able to feel peace and love. That doesn't make sense. That passes understanding for sure. And so it can feel kind of incongruous. I think sometimes we get stuck in, well, this thing is happening, and so I should feel this way. It's hard, and so I should feel overwhelmed, and I should feel upset, and I should feel, tried, and all of that. But often we don't have to feel that. It's just we respond with what we think is a natural response when we can have access to that peace that passes understanding. It doesn't make sense, but it's available.
So, what are some of the practical steps? That's what I'd like to know that each of us take to enter into that point of peace and
That's a
joy
great question.
What a
through those hard
what a
times.
perfect setup for what I was thinking.
Oh, good.
Because no, because I was thinking back around to what you guys were talking about being grateful in a situation when you're not feeling it yet. And I was thinking about a perspective shift that I don't know where I picked it up. Somebody said something about it's not about being grateful for the circumstances, but it's about being grateful that God is in you and with you and says his grace is sufficient. Sufficient means enough for that situation.
Mhm.
And so one of the practices for me is to acknowledge God and tell myself about the bigness of God, about the greatness of God, about the capacity of God who is in me and with me. And, looking at the names of God, I think one of you referred to the names of God. Like, if we look at who God calls himself, he's Jehovah. I'm not going to say the names, but he's peace. He calls himself the God of peace, the God of righteousness, the God who is my shepherd. He is the God who is my victory. He's like, there's so many names of God that when I recognize that's the God who's in me, then that shifts it for me. Like, I will leave every single time empowered because I now see who is in me and who is with me. And compared to this little thing, right? It's the law of relativity. Now I'm empowered. I'm big, and this thing is small. Not really, but God in me is.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think something that can help us to tap into that, along with that kind of gratitude and that kind of recognition of the reality, the real reality of the situation, um, is and we've talked about this before, in other conversations we've had, the importance, and actually we touched on it today too, the importance of looking back at the times that have built our trust and that have built our trust in God, and that we can have that complete confidence that this is going to deepen our trust as well. I think that's another really powerful tool to access that peace that passes understanding.
Yes. And for me, it's having a beautiful prayer partner or partners, people that, will help me pray and press into my situation. And honestly, I've had to release people in my life that were speaking words that were pulling me down. So as much as we don't want to hear it, and it doesn't mean it's forever, but sometimes we need to release those people from us and center ourselves with like-minded people that will help lift us up, help lift our words, and be there when we can't always. There are times where we're so broken that we need other people to help lift us up. And I think that's the beauty of this community that we're forming, as
Mhm.
we gather more people, more women, that we can be there for each other, that we can use those words of praise and prayer and just heart-centered, faith-filled conversations that can lift each other up.
Mhm. It reminds me so much of the story of Naaman in the Old Testament, who you maybe remember. He was the captain of, I mean, like, he was second only to the king of Syria. He was a military man who had, you know, ruled over a lot of people and a lot of respect, but he had leprosy. And among his servants was an Israelite girl who had been taken captive. And she said to her mistress, oh, if only he was with the prophet in Israel, the prophet could heal him. And so they take that word to the king, and the king says, oh, absolutely, let's make this happen. He writes a letter to the king of Israel and tells Naaman, take this letter, take it to the king. We're going to make this happen. So Naaman gathers up his chariots and all of his entourage, his servants that are going with him, and he goes to the king and gives the king this letter. And the king's like, whoa, I don't know how to do, I can't do this. I don't, and he's worried. Well, the prophet Elisha gets word of this, and he says, oh, I'll take care of this. And so the king sends him to the prophet, and he goes to the prophet. And what does the prophet do? But send one of his servants to the door and says, tell him to go bathe in the River Jordan 7 times. And what does Naaman do? He's so offended because of his position, because of who he is, that this prophet won't even come to the door and talk to him, A. And B, he's telling me to go wash it in the River Jordan. How many rivers do we pass come in here that are better rivers than this? And then what happened? His servants said, whoa, whoa, whoa. If the prophet had bid you do some great thing, would you not have done it? And so he humbled himself and did it. Leprosy cured, happy ending. But I think about that, and it's like there's so many things, so many times when we talk about the story, we focus on Naaman. But that man had servants that he was surrounded by that were faithful, and he listened to them. Without those servants, that story would have been completely different. So
Mm,
without that, Ian, so it wasn't even like it was his close friends. These were his
Right.
servants,
Right.
but he still listened. And they gave him faith that he did not have. They calmed his rage when he did not have peace or humility. They helped him come to
mhm,
a different place and receive that blessing that changed his life.
Mm.
That community, whether it's our very close friends or maybe a little further distant, maybe it's just who we choose to listen to um, on podcasts or other places. But the community makes so much difference, so much difference, because none of us could
Yeah.
do this by ourselves, period.
No, and the energy and the power of those praying people around us. I've shared this conversation with past times with you ladies, but when I worked for a neuroscientist and we did brain training, and we were brain mapping this woman that um, when we did a brain map and then we transported the information. Normally, the frequency in the frontal lobes are, I don't know, between 25 and 40. And hers were equally over 1 million. And we're like, oh my gosh, what was going on while we were brain mapping you? And she literally had people all over the world praying for her at the same time. So that community, that power, that energy is so important. And I have to believe that could go either way. What if she had centered herself with people that were thinking negative thoughts? And, you know, that would be a kind of fun experiment if anybody out there would like to do it. But, if we were brain mapping and she had a community that was like, speaking curse words and whatever negative thoughts, you have to wonder. So
Mhm.
do be careful who you surround yourself with, and just know that they are part of you and they can uplift you in a million ways, literally.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
community is super powerful, right?
Hmm.
It really can lift us up or it can pull us down depending on what we allow into our circle of influence. And it's funny that you shared that example, Lisa, because one of the things my husband and I we used to do when we were in some business conferences is we would actually have someone come up to the front of the room, and we would use muscle testing and test that they would be strong, and then we would ask the audience, now think something negative about this person. And when they did, they would be strong, and then when the thoughts came towards it, they would literally go weak. Their whole body would respond in weakness. And then we'd say, okay, now we want you to think good things about this person, positive things about this person, and you try and press their arm down or whatever, and it would stay strong, which shows that the people we surround ourselves with, they are either lifting us up and empowering us, even though we are fully unaware of it, maybe, or we are being drawn down and weakened by it. So, yeah, community is huge, and who we choose to surround ourselves with and what they believe and where they're focused, at a heart level, is huge.
Yes. And I've been through the same experience. And just to reiterate what you were saying, that the person that, and not everybody may know what muscle testing is, so you may want to explain that,
Yeah,
but the person that was having the muscle testing done on them is unaware of which emotion is being projected at the time.
that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
we are not left to ourselves, that's for sure. And to face the challenges that we face, whether it be being the sandwich generation or whatever other challenges we may be facing, we have so many tools available to us, not the least of which is our community, not the least of which is our ability to trust God, not the least of which is to choose Him, and then not to mention prayer and scripture and so many things. We're given so many tools to be able to face the challenges that we face. and take comfort in knowing that Christ is with us always, as he said himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wisdom from the well today. And we'll be posting these once a month and hope that you can find some encouragement, some faith, some community, and hope, and that peace that passes understanding. Until next time.